One of the things is Sikhi, to practice Sikhi is not necessarily that easy all the time. But in Sadh Sangat it becomes very easy, Guruji says. And the Sadh Sangat is not just what we do in terms of the reet that's happened, in terms of what's happened in Sikhi now is very much so, Sadh Sangat has become like Sunday worship. And the Sunday worship that Christians do, where we come to the Gurdwara and Sangat on a Sunday. But if you understand Sikhi, try to understand, and the key place where we try to understand Sikhi from is from Bhai Gurdas Ji. Bhai Gurdas Ji was one of the key recognised Gursikhs in Guruji's time. And Bhai Gurdas Ji has written some things called Kabit Savaiye. These are 4 lines and there's over 500 of them, and each one of them gives us a Sikhi message. And Bhai Sahib has also written Vara, what we call Bhai Gurdas Jiyan Vara, and there's 40 Vara, and in those Vara they're split into Paudiyan. Now if we get an understanding of what that element, what Bhai Gurdas Ji has written, because Bhai Gurdas Ji was with Guruji all the time. He was the relative of Guru Arjan Dev Ji, Guruji's times. They're not being done now. One of the things is writing Gurbani. Har jap, har likh. When Guru Sahib says jap, he says likh. He says pad, but he says gao as well. So likhna, writing Gurbani, is actually a very, very highly spiritual cheez. It's very spiritual. And Bhai Gurdas Ji wrote all of the Guru Granth Sahib, and he wrote it in the presence of Guru Arjan Dev Ji. The Ard Granth. This is because when I say Ard Granth, just so in case someone doesn't understand, it's before Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji's Bani was put into Guru Granth Sahib Ji. So that whole Granth Bhai Gurdas Ji wrote, and it's highly spiritual cheez to write. It's a highly spiritual thing to read. It's a highly spiritual thing to sing. And it's a highly spiritual thing to jap. They're the 4 things in terms of bhakti. When we say bhakti, they're four elements. Now, if we try to understand from a Sikhi point of view, we do Amrit. Amrit, kayane Amrit shakya, kayane nahi shakya. That's not relevant in terms of the conversations that I tend to have. That's not relevant. What we talk about is Bani, it's what Sikhi is to you. It's obviously a very, very important step for a Gursikh to take, because Guru Sahib says that's the Pritham Rath, that's the first Rath for Gursikh. But in terms of the interaction we have here, it's not relevant whether you've done Amrit or not. But when we practice our Sikhi, when we learn something about Sikhi and try to implement it, that part about implementation slowly starts wearing off. So in other words, now when an Amrit Sanchar happens, someone does Amrit or something, everybody's light inside comes on. What we say, the Jod. Now I'm just going to talk on a slightly deeper topic list for a minute. When we, in terms of our body here, our body's got 9 darwaje, and it's got 10th gate. So we've got 9 gates: eyes, ears, nose, mouth, that's 7. You've got 2 down below. But Guruji talks about the 10th one. There's a 10th one that's hidden. Now that 10th one is what a Gursikh opens. And we talk about it in Anand Sahib, that the 10th, what the Gursikh's trying to open. Now there's 3 elements of Dasam Dwar. Does anyone know what the three elements of it? If your 10th gate is open, do you know what Gurbani says? How do we recognize it's open? Does anyone know? Okay, name one thing. Can anyone name one thing that your 10th gate's open? Don't be shy. You won't be shy after a bit. Raj account. One thing when your dasmadar is open. Shorti. So your concentration goes. But that's tika, that's one thing that happens. But there's three signs of that happening. Anyone know? Everyone going to be shy this week? So Guruji says there's three things. First thing is Amrit Ras. So Amrit is a taste. Throughout Gurbani, we say that Amrit is in Bani, it's in the word, it's in the Naam as well. They're the two things. They have Amrit in them. And the second thing Guruji says is there's a Prakash, which is light. So there's there's Ras, there's Prakash, and there's Bani. They're the three things. So when Anhad Shabd, when Guruji in Bani, when you hear, every time when we're in the Gurdwara and you hear the Bhog, we say Ananda Paya Meri Mae Satguru Mein Paya. What that actually means is that Ananda that Guru is talking about there is because the Anhad Shabd have started inside. When the Anhad Shabd start and the Amrit Ras starts and the Jyot comes on, that's what the Anand Sahib is talking about. That's the essence of Anand Sahib, when we do that Anand Sahib. And just for Sikhi, everyone's purpose to understand, that Anand Sahib, we do that when we're born, we do that when we do Amrit, we do that when we do Bhog, but we do that at our death as well. Our Anand is, Guru Sahib showed you that Anand is the same. Doesn't matter whether you're being born or dying. For Gursikh, that Anand is the same. So they're the three things that actually happen. Now, when we're following our Sikhi day by day, the purpose, and sometimes these things aren't discussed, the purpose of us reading our Bani every day, the purpose of us doing Simran every day is to build up that Amrit Ras inside. Now, there's three key things that take away that building up of Amrit. Three key things. Now, no one had a stab at the Dasamdar. I'm guessing no one's going to have a stab. There's three key things. When we're building that up, there's three things that take it away. Does anyone know what they are? What are the three key things that take it away? So you can assume that someone's doing their hair, they're doing everything. Let's say they're doing everything that Sikhi wise. What are the three things that take that Amrit Ras away? Does anyone know? Anyone want? Have a go? Ego? Anyone else? So ego, Vijay says ego takes it away. Three things. Does anyone know? To see all the Gursikhs here, to see the बैठे जदा नमियां बोटियां होंदियां, you guys been in these things before. Just bolo. What are the three things that take it away? Hanji? Sorry? Anger? Anger? Benji said anger? Anyone else? So Panjadut definitely take it. So we talk about those things. Now Bhai Gurdas Ji, I'll cut it quickly. Bhai Gurdas Ji says three specific things that attack your Amrit Ras and take it away. And if we recognize and remember that, you'll see inside that they're gone, that your Jeej is getting taken. The first thing Bhai Gurdas Ji says is that if you listen to Nindya, that means when we're sitting and we hear someone talking about someone and our ears get switched on, that will take your Amrit Ras away. That's the first thing. And Bhai Gurdas Ji describes it in a very brutal way, let's put it that way. What Bhai Gurdas Ji says is in the way that it gets taken. But the second thing is, so the first thing is while listening to slandering. That's first element of a Gursikh. Second thing, Bhai Gurdas Ji says is that if you look at someone else's beauty, prayatan, then that takes it away. So when you use your eyes in the wrong way. So first one's use your ears in the wrong way, another one's the eyes. And Bhai Gurdas says the third thing is that if you look at someone else's wealth, and now we all say, well, I don't really look at no one's wealth, but internally we do. So when we start looking at someone's wealth, and we start comparing ourselves, Bhagavad says that takes it too. There's three things. So Nindya, another's beauty, another's wealth. Those three things, the way Bhagavad says they take your Amrit Ras, they take it, is like, he said, if you build up bales of cotton, you build up big bales of it, and then you light it, it gets burnt in a small time. But Bhagavad says it takes ages, it takes a long time to build up those bales. First you've got to do the planting of cotton, then you've got to take planting of hay, you've got to take that bales, put them together. But he says to burn them takes a second. And Bhagavad says like a body, it takes us many, many years to build this body. But he says if you just give it one drop of poison, it doesn't matter what age it is, it could be 20, 30, 40, 50. It took 50 years to build up that body. If you give it a drop of poison, it dies straight away. Bhagavad says when you feed this body those three things, it takes away the internal Amrit as well. So there are three things. Now these are so we're just going to give a basic outline of Sikhi. Now one of the disappointments in Sikhi is that a lot of individuals, the Amrit Shaklandiya, we do loads of these things, we're living in a certain way, but they're not really changed. Our personality hasn't really changed. So for instance, we get, when Benji mentioned anger, it's very, very good. It's a very, very good point, is that when we always still getting angry, we're always still getting lustful. Even in the sangat, there's some really, really bad behavior in the sangat, in the S.H.A.R.E sangat, that's in Gurdwara, really, really poor behavior. And it's not even in line with Sikhi. Now these are the kind of things that if you have a good foundation of Sikhi and get an understanding of it, that ultimately that will all change and you can live a life of Sikhi. But it's very easy to go off the track. It's very easy to go off track and lose all of the things that you've gained. So you can think of it like, let's say you did 1 or 2 years of good Sikhi, you can lose that really quickly. And one of the key things is, when I went through one of the other lectures, is because what I found is that certain people they move away from sangat, and we don't go to sangat that much. Now when we don't go to sangat, what happens is you slowly start losing that rust that you're building up. You lose it. And there's other things as well, is that individuals who have come into sangat and spoke in a bad way to a Gursik or to someone else in the Sadh sangat, it could be anybody, it could be a Sevadar. When we're speaking in the incorrect way, then you start losing the Sikhi. So I just wanted to go over some of those points. They've been a bit, about different areas. Is that what we want to do is go back to basics, understand what the foundation of Sikhi is, make sure everyone can come together and discuss it, and then get an understanding of what Sikhi is, and then build up step by step what those things are. So it's not just about basic concepts. So we're not going to teach you 10 gurus' names and stuff like that. You can learn all of that yourself. We're not here to teach you about history, in history and this year this happened. You can learn that yourself. Here, this is what we're going to do in these particular in these lessons is to go over Sikhi and apply it to our lives. Now the first thing I want to do is, when we come here, there's a certain way to sit in sangat. So it's not to be offensive, but everyone who's sitting, leaning, if you come off the walls a little bit, if you just come a little bit off the walls, and then to sit up, if we sit up straight, because first thing we're going to start with, in Sikhi isn't about talking. Sikhi is about the mind coming into control of a Gursik. That's what Sikhi, that's a baseline. The proper baseline of Sikhi is not about how much Bani I remember. So baseline of Sikhi is not how great Kirtan someone does and or how great a speaker they are. That's not Sikhi. Sikhi, basic of Sikhi is the mind comes into the control of the Gursik. And that's when we read Japji Sahib, Man Jeete, Jag Jeet. If you win over your mind, you win over the universe, Guru Sahib saying. Jag and the world and the universe, you win over that. In other words, what Guru's created, if we can align ourselves with that, then we'll achieve all of those things. So initially, the most important thing for every Gursikh is to do Simran. That's the most important thing. In Gurbani, if you read Gurbani, most Shabas will be talking about Naam. So what we're going to do is just make sure everybody, just to get us into the spirit of what we're trying to do, is if everyone can sit up straight, and we're just going to do 1 minute, only 1 minute of Simran, and then what we're going to talk about after that is what happens when we're trying to do that. So you don't need to look around at anybody. I'm not watching anyone. I'll close my eyes myself. And just 1 minute, Sad Sangat de vich, in this Sangat, I'll tell you about that in a minute. Everybody, if you can sit up straight, please. Vaheguru, 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 Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Now, Gurbani, when we listen to Gurbani, is telling us that the mind wants to go outwards. It keeps going out. Everything in Gurbani is telling you to bring the mind back in. It keeps going out. So in other words, I'm going to make sure everyone understands what that means. When we're doing Simran, when you're sitting here, your mind starts going outside, starts doing its own things. Starts going somewhere else. Starts doing different things. We could keep going on about different things, about what Bana I've got on, what this, what that. If the mind ain't in control, a lot of that's of very, very little relevance. It's of very little relevance. But maybe the start idea, or I've got so much loha on, I've got this, or a lot of that's of very small relevance if man is not in control. And the first thing Guruji is telling us is, before we touch a shastra even, Seal Jat Ki Kach Peher, Bhai Gurdas Singh has told what the wrath of the Gursikh was, Seal Jat Ki Kach Peher Pakreo Hathiara. So before you even touch a shastra, your self-control has to be 100% before you even touch it. So the Mandir training is extremely important for us all. It's very, very important. And I want to do a little bit of that every week. And for this week, all I want is for everyone just to understand one thing. From Bhai Gurdas Ji says, Hon Sadke Tina Gursikha Bahar Janda Barja Rahaya. That's the only thing I'm gonna cover of Bhai Gurdas Ji's whole body. Jadon man bahar nu janda, Bhai Gurdas Ji says they stop it and bring it back in. He says, I'm a sacrifice to that Gursikh. Now, I'm going to let you just practice one about 30 seconds again. But this time, when the man's running, just bring it back in, bring it back in, bring it into focus, bring it back into focus. That focus helps you in everything in life. It helps you in everything. It helps you in study. It helps you when you got difficulty in your life. It helps you even in your happiness. In your happiness, I hope that everybody understands this from a Sikhi point of view. Kabir Ji tells us, Bhai, Sampa dekh na har khiye, bipat dekh na roye. When we get happiness in our lives, when we get happiness, utte tusi bhangade nahi paune. This is Gurbani. You want to jump around, say, "Wow, look what great things happened." Sampa dekh na har khiye. But Kabir ji says, Bipat dekh na roe. Now, if you get a bad thing that happens in your life, utte tusi rona nahi hega. You don't start crying if something bad happens as well. Jo sampayatyo vipata hai, bedane rachya sohoy. Whatever Waheguru is going to do is happening. It plays out. In our life, it'll play out. But Kabir ji is saying, don't let that sadness take over you, but don't let happiness take over you. Now, you'll understand, in our lifestyles, we've let both of those things overtake. But this, going back to the Simran will stop both of those things. But you've got to practice. You've got to practice. It's a bit like, I mean, most everybody here, they do some sort of sports. A lot of people I know, I see, they do a lot of fighting, martial sports. Fighting sports. Now, even in those, if you don't practice a technique, if you don't keep doing it, you won't get good at it. Now, for instance, if I talk to you about fighting, if I talk about a jab, or in boxing, straight jab, if you don't practice that, and you don't get your timing right, get your understanding, concentration, when it's supposed to happen, you'll never be good at it. In our Sikhi, if we never practice doing our Simran, you're never going to be good at it. There's no practice. So our practice isn't just to read our Nitnem, by the way. I just want to be clear about it. Those who do Nitnem, your Nitnem is only 50% of your daily Sverda routine. It's only 50%. If you haven't done Simran before your Nitnem, you haven't completed your Nitnem. So I just want to make sure everyone's clear about that. That's not your Nitnem isn't to do Panjabani the part. Your Nitnem is to do this Simran that we're talking about here. So this time, I say it's only going to be short this time around, but I want to make it practical. Everybody, just for 30 seconds. But this time, when your mind starts running, remember that. You can do anything to bring it back. So for instance, you can say Shabad, you can do anything, but just keep your focus. Sit up straight then, please. Waheguru, 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 Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So that's the practical part. To see if whoever wants to practice can but it's an important thing. Second thing is, what I want to do the next part of this is I want smaller groups, so everyone will go into that. But one thing that Bhai Gurdashi says is, if a Gursikh, that's all of you come into Sangat, and of your day, which is 60 qadiyan, is 24 hours, breaks down into 24 minutes times 60. What we've got here is hours, minutes, seconds and all that. We break our times. In Guruji's times, the time weren't broken down like that. They're broken into peher, qadiyan, and but I'm going to just stick to those two. Peher are, there's 3 hours times 8 in a day. So there's 12 hours day, 12 hours night. That's pretty easy to understand. Second thing is there's qadiyan. Now Bhai Gurdashi says there's 60 qadiyan. Now if you break 24 hours into 60, it's 24 minutes each. Bhai Gurdashi says all Guruji wants from you is concentration for one of those 60. One. It says 24 minutes. He said he wants 24 minutes of your... But he said if you do that in Sangat, then all of the other 59 start becoming like clock. In the olden days, not even olden days, you still get them, wind up clock, and that lasts for 24 hours. You wind it up again next day, it lasts for 24 hours. Now Bhai Gurdash is saying, if you do 24 minutes in Sangat of Simran, 24 minutes, the other remainder of those 24 hours become pavitra. In other words, they get accepted by Guruji, and your Simran can carry on in those if you just put a bit of effort in by just doing 24 minutes. So that's important. It's an important point, because in Sangat now, what we've made, like we're going back to my beginning point, Sangat we've made it into a bit of, on Sundays and even nowadays, Sunday bhi nahi, gussa nahi karna. Even Sundays they become okha for everyone, na? Sunday ona, once a week. So Sad Sangat. So this is so here I just want because there's slightly some people, some different places, everybody here. I don't care what gurdwara you go to, na? If you understand where we've done Sikhi classes from, we've done it since 1998, 7, something like that. I don't care what gurdwara you go to, what background is, where you want to do Amrit, all these kind. I'm not interested. All I'm interested in is the Sikhi message of Guruji. If that's for that to be clear for everybody, So this isn't a kind of a Crossroad Gurdwara promotion program. I just want to make that dead clear to everybody. This is not a Crossroad Gurdwara promotion program. I don't want your money. I don't want anything from you. I'm here for the Guru, and I'm going to talk about the Guru. I love the Guru more than my family. So that's all I'm here for. So I just want to make sure that the context of these programs is understood. That's what it's for. You could take whatever you want from it. What I want everyone to do is break into groups. I don't want you to be shy. If you don't want to go into a big group, you don't have to. Go into groups of 3, 4, 5, whatever you need to. Because I'm going to ask you a question and I just want you to discuss it between yourselves. But while we're doing that, because usually we normally do this in the back hall, I think because Guru Sahib said, don't bitna karyo, so make sure you're sitting in the right kind of way. I'm not here to try to embarrass anybody, but sometimes what we found previously is when you talk between each other, especially if your friends are there, it's more useful for you to talk about specific things than for me to just keep talking to you and then slowly you fall asleep. So I'm going to ask you specific questions and you just discuss it, and then you can, when we go around, you could just, one or two of you can just discuss what you talked about and see what did you take from that small discussion. So Tika, can you just go into small groups, please? If you can sit with people you don't know, that's even better. I would say it's better. If you sit with individuals you don't know. So, in your groups, what I want you to discuss is this. I'm going to start with this question. Do you think that the world is getting worse? Do you think that the world is getting worse day by day? And the second part of the question is, what do you think is contributing to that? Yeah, so really simple. Do you think the world is getting worse day by day? And what do you think is contributing to that?
We talked about competition. We felt that life has become a bit of a competition. There's big families. Back in the day, there were big families, there was love, there was compassion, but it seems as though we spend a lot of time now clock watching. People are a lot more selfish these days. Nobody smiles. Everybody's getting older. And we just feel that, compared to back in the day, people just don't have time for each other. Everybody's clock watching these days. But then on the flip side, we also talked about kind of social media as well, playing an impact on kind of whether life's getting good or bad. A lot of parents, what we've said is a lot of the time we spend on social media, whereas back in the day you'd spend time with family, you'd have dinner together, roti together, whereas these days, even when you're eating, people are on their phones and parents are on their phones. But on the flip side, we also talked about social media helping, because if it wasn't for social media, YouTube's, the likes of Basics of Sikhi, etc., we wouldn't, a lot of us have said that we've learned so much about Sikhi over the past few years through social media. Myself personally, I've learned a lot. I think I've been on a bit of a journey over the last 2 years, and if it wasn't for social media, I wouldn't know as much about Sikhi that I do now. But Benji wants to say something as well, don't you?
Just after the group discussion, we just had a quick conversation about the first question. So, personally, I think that it probably was always bad because that worst, that comes from inside, from the 5 vices. It's probably just more in your face now, more showcase, okay, some lustful thing or whatever, or ego thing, it's just everywhere, it's broadcasted everywhere, but that was always there. If you think about the S.H.A.R.E when Guru Nanak Dev Ji came to this world and why they came to this world, there was cannibalism, people talking about prostitution, etc. So it was that worse, it comes from we're doing that worse, and personally it's always been like that, I would say.
Okay, thank you, very good.
As a group, we have decided that the world is worse purely because of social media. There's a lot more available bad things which you can access. But as a person, you can choose to see good or to see bad. But I think, in general, I think people tend to look for bad things, read bad things or research bad things rather than good things. Yeah, and in general, I think the first group made that point as well. People don't fear God anymore as much as we think they used to before. That's probably got a lot to do with ego, money, competition as a whole. So that's what we thought of as a group. Very good.
Okay. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Well, as a group, we discussed that it is getting worse because mostly it's greed, because people are not satisfied with what they have. They want more from other people, and it kind of destroys them as a whole, and it destroys other people as well. So I guess that's what we discussed.
Good, thank you.
Pretty much everything we've discussed has been covered more or less, but we're saying similar sort of thing. People don't have time for each other, they don't have time for their own families, they don't sit together to eat like Penny says, everybody's on social media. We don't sort of communicate the way that we used to communicate face to face. We do things like send somebody a message, and then from that message they can't tell whether it's meant in anger or meant in love. There's no tone to it, so then they might send back the opposite reaction to that. Then it just escalates and makes things a lot worse. Even things like sort of like kids at school. If you had an argument with somebody at school, you had a fight, you got it over, till next day it was out the system. Now they go home and they're all night long, they're texting back and forth, and it's just flaring up more and more. What else did you say? Yeah, also, I don't know if religion's dying out or if people are just turning away from religion. I mean, not to put anybody down, but we use the example of the Christians. Hardly any of them go to church anymore, whereas at one time all Christians would go to church, or most Christians would go to church on a Sunday. At least that sort of set them up for the week or the next couple of days to keep in the right frame of mind. Now, because people are turning away from that, they don't have that good influence in their life anymore. Anything else? That's about it, really. Thanks.
Good. Thank you.
So, should it?
Yeah, we talked about technology. We talked about how obviously social media does take a huge part in this, but also as a teacher working at school, there's a lot of children now, staying up late, addicted to video gaming, exposed to a lot of bad content. Children aren't sleeping at night. We have to deal with a lot of circumstances like that, and it just really shows what they're exposed to as well is affecting their education, affecting their parents are worried. So I think it does make you realise that obviously what people are being exposed to is affecting their day-to-day life. I also do believe that obviously now with the terror attacks, and we've had this conversation about the ego and how we are so kind of narrow-minded in our own ways that we are wanting to inflict danger and inflict damage on other people because of our own beliefs. and how, you know, our ego can make us do certain things that, you know, that is just, you know, detrimental to society. And then obviously Benji said also that, you know, maybe it was because it's not being, now it's more exposed. So maybe these things were happening before, but it's just more exposed due to, you know, it being more public for people to see.
So is that the rule probably is the same? It's not worse, it's not better. Because if we say it's worse, then we're sort of categorising if it's good or bad anyway. So going back to what you said by yourself at the start, part of that you said don't get happy and don't get sad. So, you know, it is what it is. It's our own effort which makes it look good or look bad. So earlier on in the day at work, there's some unsavoury conversations going on, but now I'm here and it's a completely different world. So it just is, rather than it's getting worse. The Guru was then, the Guru is now. Gurbani was then, Gurbani is now, and Gurbani is the Guru. So it's just what you do with your time. The contributors to it, it seems like it's media, but like Benji just said, maybe it was happening then, you got more exposure to it now. And also, it's a bit like a snowball effect. So the less part and similar we're doing now, that's why we're getting worse. Not so everyone's ego's building. There's no sort of technology that's driving it. There's no weather or any other variable. It's people's own ego.
A lot of what we said has already been covered by all the other groups, but just to touch on one subject that Kippa was talking about is about terrorism. We were talking about religion and the way people interpret religion. That was probably one of the main points that we spoke about how the world's getting worse. In terms of getting better, again, social media, and there's a lot more out there for if anybody wanted to go and research Sikhi and look into Sikhi, that it's all there, it's all available. So you could really say there's not, you know, there's no excuses. Yeah, apart from that, everything else has really been covered.
Thank you.
We discussed why is the world getting worse. So it's war, people chasing after Maya. And why is it worse? Because it's more on an industrial scale. And how is that possible? We pinpointed media. Media means the internet, social, radio, movies, advertising. Because the human mind, the subconscious mind, has no control of what comes in. And to give an example, I said LinkedIn. Everyone thought it was quite innocent, but you're looking at your connections, all presented with good jobs, they're doing well, and it's making you negative about yourself, being depressed about yourself, for example. So that's the negative of looking at other people's wealth. War, the media's to blame because those 3 guys stabbed those innocent people, yet within seconds the whole world knew about it. Billions of people knew straight away. And that negative reaction to Muslims, billions of Muslims all over the world, everywhere, happened straight away, in thought and now physically. So what we decided is, you know, social media, it's been mentioned, even email. These big companies are able to see your behaviour, so they target you with advertising. They know you even know what time you're going to shop, so they can send you an email so you could get this, buy this product. YouTube, you watch one video of Hitler and they'll start giving you more, so you can get pushed towards a certain way of thinking. Society get more divided. And so what we decided in the end is that, for example, if you were listening to Gurbani in a car, you're less likely to look at some woman walking by, for example. So Gurbani is like a firewall, an antivirus for your mind to prevent all this media having this negative action upon you.
The discussion we had in our group was that we think that generally it is getting worse. It's much easier to be able to spread hate in the world instead of spreading love. Social media has made it a point of view that you can see everybody's life so quickly, even if you don't know the person. You can see what they've bought or how their job's going, and it has like a negative effect if they're, in your opinion, is doing better than you are. So I think that's the discussion we mostly had. Yeah.
Generally, all our points have already been covered, but we mainly spoke about the use of social media and how it's easier to spread things like hate. And we also think there's a lack of PR or even almost no PR at all.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So we discussed the same stuff as well and decided the world is kind of getting worse, but it's more that it's an acceptability of what's going wrong. So that we kind of accept things that a few years ago we decided are completely incorrect and inappropriate in terms of relationships before marriage, in terms of Jordan from the Gurdwara and kind of things that you're now getting, like Baisal was saying and Vigi was saying that back in the days it's just having a Shan Sahib in front of Maharaj and all the beta would just go on there, there'd be no Golak to actually hold it and no one would take the Maya. Whereas now, even from within the Golak, you're getting Jordan happening and it's more of an acceptability of doing things wrong. The role models nowadays are more in a Western sense that we look at it when we're raising our children, the stuff where the children are being shown on television. They're looking at these people and seeing these are the people we want to be like. So I've got young nieces and things and they dance around, jump around, saying, and these people aren't the heroes that we should be making our young children like. And so that's leading to them having the itcha to be people who haven't got Gurmat Vichara, who haven't got the gun of Bhagat. So not necessarily just in Sikhi, but across the world, Bhagat is now seen as someone who's a negative thing. They're seen as a chore, they're seen as someone who doesn't actually have good Vichara and good gun in them. And because of that, that's leading to a downfall in Dharam as a whole as well. And in Dharam, there's a lot less pyar as well because we're forgetting the ekta of what Maharaj is. And each Dharam is forgetting the true Sach, which will be at the core of them. And they're forgetting the pyar of the whole dunya and the pyar that Maharaj and Vaheguru is in each and every person. And so because of that, we're getting more hatred and more terrorist attacks and things like that as well.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. We discussed as well that Gurbani is saying that how everyone's viewed in the world. Like the sinners viewed as a saint and the king's viewed as a beggar. So that's the kind of justice and that's how everyone's getting viewed. I think because it's Kal Yug, it's the dark age, it's just going to happen like that and you've just got to break out of it. And we talked about Sach, so not everyone's going to realise Sach. So some people might carry on and continue in that cycle of doing sin or bad stuff, but only a few will get such. And that was it. That's it. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. The main one that we touched on was selfishness and the fact that basically everybody feels in the world now, if it's got no benefit for me, why should I be doing it? Which gives basically also a lack of compassion as well between humans as general. So everybody feels that if it's not in a benefit for me, then there's nothing in it for me, so why should I bother? Everybody's just becoming more and more selfish. All the other points really have been discussed. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Why the world's getting worse. So the general consensus is it's getting worse, that mainly because people are selfish, nobody smiles nowadays, everybody's getting older, and they're clock watching, social media is having an impact, but it's got a positive impact too. Social media's negative impact has been discussed here. You can choose whether you want to do a bad thing or a good thing. So effectively the world, there's probably a bit of a generation gap here as well. There's those who've grown up in technology are sitting here, and those who've grown up with a lot less technology, like me. I'm just a bit older than you guys, but so there's a generation gap there that when you're born into this, and I see it with children, and they're born into this. It's a very, very different way of being brought up. It's very different. So the other things were sorry, 1 second. There's no fear of God. People are looking for bad things even when they're going on social media. Ego, money, competing, these are the key things that people are doing. Greed, nobody's satisfied. Messages, they don't have emotion. So the most emotional thing that you can do, just so I like, because I like that point, There's 4 or 5 ways of communicating. One is face to face. That slowly in olden times went to letters. As technology grew, it went to telephones. As telephones got a bit more advanced, it went to text messaging, electronic, or email, it went to email first. Then it went to text, then it's gone to chat. Chat is the worst way you can speak to somebody. You all need to understand that. That's the worst way of communicating. The best way of communicating is what we're doing here. Unfortunately, nobody likes doing this now. And I was talking to some of the younger generation, let's say, before about that, is that they've grown up they're growing up in their bedroom. They're sitting in their bedroom and they're growing up like that. It's really, really bad. It's like, I was really surprised that no one really mentioned something specific in terms of that social, your social profile, the profile that you have. You can pretend to be anyone you want, right? You can be anybody on that, in a virtual world. So there's a virtual world versus a real world. And slowly the virtual world, we're spending more and more time in the virtual world and not in the real world. So this interaction's stopping, the interaction that we're doing now. So the sadh sangat, you can do stuff like listen to Kirtan on the internet, but it's very different to do it here. That's why, as part of this program, what we are doing is doing Kirtan at the end of this. Even if you can only stay for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it doesn't matter. You should try and do Kirtan live while you're sitting. It has a different vibration. You'll understand it. But just going more into the points is that greed, people aren't satisfied, messages have no emotions and they're electronic, different types of fights are going on online in terms of before a physical thing you'd end quickly. Online, people are bullying on and on for years and years. It carries on, it never stops. The religion is dying. The Christian thing is one big example of that was given. Technology plays a huge part in the negativity of the world. Children staying up late, gaming, not sleeping, damaging others' lives really, and taking lives away because of your religious belief. Because of your religious belief, you can kill somebody. More exposure online to very, very different things which were difficult to get access to. So, one of the groups said, it's neither good or bad, better or worse. It just is what it is. Guru is here, so it depends what you do with your time. Religion is making the world worse. War, media, internet, social, advertising, all these different things are having an effect. News is travelling really fast now, so the big thing now about fake news going around where you just believe something because it's on the internet. YouTube, the related videos thing, so you've seen one, and if it's a bad thing, you're going to get 15 more. If you see a good thing, you might get 15 more. So there's a linking thing in. Gurbani is a firewall, was said. Hate spreading because it's easy. The role models that we're seeing don't really have virtues. Being a bhagat is looked on as a bad thing. Being a worldly person is looked on as a good thing. Not seeing God in everyone, and good is seen as bad and bad is seen as good. Now, all of these things, if we go through Gurbani, and we will, over the coming weeks, every single one of those points is addressed by Guruji. Every single one of them. And most of them as indirectly, not as in an indirect message. So in reality, the human being is generally the same. It's just got different toys to be able to do the silly things that they do. And when we talk about hatred, greed and all that, because we don't want to make it all negative, what I'm saying is you've got to come out of the negative into the positive. That's what Sikhi is. So in terms of the key things that are happening in this world, one of the very positive messages that the Sikhs have been getting is because they started doing good when there's something really bad that's happened. And that's exactly what Guru Nanak Dev Ji wanted us to do. It's in this whole atmosphere of bad, you do good. You be good. Your Atma, your soul is doing good. So what we will be covering is things like these types of questions on who are you? Have you ever asked who you are? Who are you? Where have you come from? What are you doing here? From here, what's your next steps? We do all of these things that we just talked about here by making this really, really small little world for ourselves. We've made a really little world and we live in it and we think that's everything. And you know what Gurbani talks about is a frog in a well. And that's what we've made. He said the frog in the well thinks the well's everything. When it jumps out of the well, it sees a whole world. And the same that we've done. That we've Koob Pariyo Jaise Dadra Kish Desh Videsh na Suj. A frog, because it's stuck in its well, it doesn't know that there's actually countries, loads of countries on this planet. It doesn't know that. And we've made our world so small and selfish and greedy, and we don't even think that, hang on a minute, why am I here on this planet? And you know, every little thing of your body, even down to how you look, down to all the good that you're going to get, all the bad that you're going to get, its actions have come from behind that we've done. And they're going to play out in this life, and then we're doing certain actions while we're here, and they're going to play out in when you go from here. That's called the Karam philosophy, that we'll cover that as well. Is that how Karam, we're building up the different Karams, we built them up to now, we're doing something here, and when we're going to go from here, those Karam are going to get measured, and then you're going to have to do something else from them. So either those Karam take you out of this dunya, or they bring you back. That's kind of the general gist and basic level of Sikhi, and that's what we're gonna try to understand. Now, just as we finish off, because we've got about 5 minutes, what I do want to say to everybody is this. I know everybody's really busy, and we've actually discussed it as well, is that we don't have time. I know we don't have time. For your Friday evening, if you can, rearrange that so it makes it a little bit easier for you, and bring others too. Is to spend time with the Guru here on Fridays. That's what we're trying to do. Understand the Guru's message. But there's one thing I do want to say. When we read Gurbani, Guruji goes through loads of rituals. Says, Paat padyo, ar Ved vicharyo, nevalopayangam sadhe, koi paat padda of the Ved, someone does vichar of them. But it says the 5 evils in their body don't go away. Now when you go through that Shabad, Guruji talks through loads, he talks through that, he talks through Tirath the Ishnan, when we go out to bathe at the Ganges, he talks about shaving your head, what people do, Guruji talks about doing yoga, Guruji talks about apna daan de, even people used to give their whole families in daan. They used to give their wives, they used to give their children effectively as charity. And they used to do loads of things. Guruji talks about all of those things. He said, Raj, see people become kings and say, now I'm rich, I can do lots of things on the planet. He says, all of those things, they have no value at all in your next step. In your next step of your journey. But Guruji says the thing that does have is S.H.A.R.E Sad sangat hai, S.H.A.R.E karman ke karma. When we sit in the sangat and you sing Kirtan of Vaheguru and of his Shabad, he said that is beyond any karma that you can do. S.H.A.R.E karman ke karma. That's the ultimate cheez. So if we do that, sit, concentrate, get our mind into things. I will talk about one story about that where you'll all know about Guruji, where the king came to Guru Har Gobind Ji, and when he was sitting in the Sangat, the Shabad that came was Lekh na miti hai saki jo likhya karta. He said the thing that's written on your forehead, in other words our destiny, he said jo likhya ya, nothing can erase that. Now, that Raja went to Guruji, says, well, you said to me, sit in Sad Sangat, do Kirtan here, sing, do all these things. But he says, this Gurbani saying to me, that what is written is going to happen. Whatever's written is going to happen. Now, to cut a long story short, Guruji said, you'll understand that message later on. I'm not going to answer it now. So, to cut a long story short, as I say, Guruji, they went out hunting, and what happened that night, that Raja had a dream. He had a dream that he went through another Janam, he was born again, and he's born in a poor family this time. And in that poor family, he's really having lots of problems, lots of different things. And anyway, when the Sakhi says that he, on the following day, when they were hunting, he went somewhere and something had played out. There's some lady and a child saying, "Dad, what are you doing here?" And he says, "I don't know what he's calling me his father. I don't know what you're talking about. You're not your father. I'm a Raja. I'm over there." Now, what the Sakhi says is that when he went back and asked Guruji said that night when he had a dream, he said the thing that he was going to have to go through, in other words, another Janam, Guruji ended it in a dream. That night, that whole life that he's supposed to have, because he sat in Sadh Sangat and he sat and listened to Kirtan, it destroyed loads of Paap, let's say, the sins that he'd done that were going to cause him to have another birth. That got destroyed in a dream. So Guruji says that whatever's likya, you can't erase it, especially specifically what's going to happen in this life. But what Guruji does is changes it in how it occurs. And there's lots of sakya about that, and we could cover a lot of those. But what I want to emphasize is that even if it's not while you're here, the time that you're spending. So, for instance, if your day-to-day, your day breaks up. If you're sitting in your car, I think someone mentioned it here. If you're sitting in your car, don't waste that time listening to the radio and listening to same news items. You can read the news in about 5 minutes. It takes about 5 minutes to get to understand what's happening in the day. Don't waste that time doing that sort of activity. Spend it, use it. The other thing is, I've said it before to others, is when you're doing your day-to-day thing, like you're walking into work, that's a repetitive thing that you do daily. If in that repetition you start doing just say Waheguru, even if you're going to the toilet, it doesn't matter. If you're going up the stairs at your work, you're walking from your car to your thing, do some Simran there, but get used to doing that. You know, when you're in lunchtime and you're breaking up, in your lunch, don't spend all the hour just saying, well, I'm going to sit there, talk to somebody. Spend 50 minutes talking to them if you want, but spend 10 minutes taking a bit of time out for it. So in your day-to-day thing, break up your activity. And all of these things, they're not for show. They're not for show. And the most fruitful thing that you can do, and this again, I'll end it on this point, the most fruitful thing that you can do in your day, and in your night even, is the stuff that nobody else knows about. So we could sit here, I'll do 1 hour Kirtan with you, right? And then you'll say, oh yeah, you did 1 hour Kirtan. But that's not the Kirtan that you do on your own is more important. It's really important to do in Sadh Sangat, but I'm talking about mentally. That's going to have a lot more benefit for you, is if someone doesn't know what you're doing. And the story I'll talk about is, Raghbir Singh Bir, who wrote Bandagi Nama, great book if anyone wants to read it, is that a lot of, his waking up, he used to wake up at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and for many years, his wife didn't know. His own wife didn't know that he used to get up and do Simran. He'd spent many years doing that. So these things it's not for show. It's not that how much you show somebody else, it's how much you do is more important. So this week I'll end it there. What we'll do is we'll bring we'll build those topics up. If you've got any questions, ask anyone. You can get them written down. We can discuss specific questions if you want from here. But the other thing is that please feedback. If you think there's something you say, that was boring, it'd be better to do it like this, that's fine. We can change certain things if there's anything like that. So what I wanted to say is that the format will be, we'll discuss something, we'll go back into groups, we'll just have questions on that, and then we talk about what Guruji says. Now because the question this week was a very wide one, it was intentional, it's intentionally broad. We're not going to cover every single thing that was covered today, but we will, over the weeks, get a better understanding of, number one, why selfishness is there. The second thing is why we're selfish. Third thing is to be able to evaluate when you're being selfish. And the fourth thing is how to change that So that you, when you change in terms of your life, how you could come out of a habit like that and make it into something really positive. That's the kind of structure that we wanted. So selfishness was just one aspect of it. You got to remember, one of the things right at the beginning when we said about when you know you're losing something, you'll know. If you sit and you do Part, you do Simran, you do Sangat, you do any of those things, something builds up inside of you. And you've got to be sensitive to that. And when you do something bad with your eyes, with your ears, with what you said, you'll know that you've lost it. And that's the sensitivity Gursikh has. You've got to build that sensitivity, because when Guruji talks about it, Guruji says, Kaam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, is dehi mein panch chor basta hai. Is dehi mein panch chor basta hai. Kaam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Hankara, Amrit lute, manmukh nahi bujhe, koi na sune pukara. So Guruji is saying that there's 5 things that are inside: lust, anger, greed, attachment, ego. They're inside taking your amrit that you're building up when you're doing good things like in the Sangat. But he says the manmukh doesn't know. Someone who's a manmukh doesn't know that you've just lost it. So you've got to build your sensitivity to say, hang on, I've just lost a little bit of spirituality there, what I just did. That's how sensitive you've got to be. And that's what we'll start understanding, is you're getting a connection to that sensitivity. So we'll end it there. If you can, please stay. Everyone come a bit closer together. Do a little bit of Kirtan. S.H.A.R.E, when the S.H.A.R.E Sangat, this is the other thing that we've lost in our Sangat. When Bhai Gurdas Ji talked about the Gursikhs of Guruji's time, Sad Sangat mil gavate, Raat de hai nit chal chal jaye. When the Gursikhs were sitting in Sangat, wo sare gaande sige. They used to all sing together. Slowly what we've made is, we made a stage like this. We made a little presentation, like Raggi to do their presentation. You put your pound down, listen for a bit. And that's not the Sad Sangati Kirtan that Guruji gave us. Guruji gave us a Kirtan where in Sad Sangat we all do Bhakti together. That's going to be possibly of more benefit to you than sometimes just talking for 15 minutes. It's not. You need to understand. We need to talk. We need to understand. But there's the practical aspect of Sikhi is the cheej. That is the thing that really will move you forward. It's not necessarily knowledge. Knowledge on its own can become ego. And when knowledge becomes ego, then I'll sit with you and I'll argue with you about things. And Guruji condemned that in Bani. Because Pandit, they have debates and arguments over it. That's not what it's for. What we're learning for is to change our souls inside. So we become godlike, and there's nothing short of it, is to become godlike. That's what Guruji is saying. Even Kabirji says that the gun that you build up, Harjan aisa chahiye jaisa hari hi hoye. That the Harjan has to be like godlike. And if you'll realize when your ego and your anger and all those things, they slowly start subsiding, you'll see that the different personality comes out. That's what we're trying to build up in Sikhi. So I really, really appreciate everyone coming today. I know it is busy and it's difficult, but please take time out if you can on Fridays and adjust your timetables and come and sit in Sangat and just let's try and learn something. Because I'm learning off everybody too. I'm not the person who knows. I'm learning from what you're saying as well. So if you could come forward, just listen to Kirtan for a bit. Thode chir lai, everyone katthe hoke gao and sing. Get Papa Kadum, let's take it out. Let's take all that thing, let's get rid of them. And no one needs to have a look at anybody and see what they're doing. So if you could come forward a bit, just around here with our face towards Guruji. And even if you could come on side the Sorry, come everyone come close, it'd be better. So sing Zadari Thodi, okay, Edar.